the show that jumpstarts your day with a bang. We're strolling down these self-care streets as we navigate the maze of wellness and healing. We're helping you live happy, healed, and whole. And we do it all with a hearty dose of belly laughs for good measure. Stay tuned and get ready to wake up happy, sis. Hey, Boost. Hey, it's your girl, LeAnne Dolce. I'm your Chief Self-Love Officer, and I'm also a wellness whisperer. That's my newest thing. I kind of like it. We're going to keep it for a while. And you're here on Wake Up Happy Sis Show on KCCR, the Brownstone, and the Brownstone Podcasting Network, where we're changing the narrative for our people because we're telling our stories our way. So, as you know, Wake Up Happy Sis is all about self-care, wellness, and empowerment for Black women like you, because you deserve to wake up feeling groovy, baby. Okay, we want everybody to wake up happy over here and ready to conquer the world. So we're going to help you shake off those negative vibes and start your day out on the right foot. So today we're going to be talking about self-advocacy and negotiation skills for Black women in professional and entrepreneurial settings. We're diving deep into the challenges that we face, some strategies to overcome them, and stories from some badass women who have paved their own way, like my guest today, Joy Pittman from HR for the Culture. So I want you to get ready today to be inspired, to be uplifted, to be empowered, because I'm here to remind you that you are deserving of all the joy, success, and the happiness that you can stand. So let's get into it. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you for having me. And hey, y'all. How y'all doing? And wake up happy, sis. I love the name of the show.
Thank you. So why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them a little bit about who you are.
Yep. So my name is Joy Pittman. I am the proud founder of an amazing firm called HR for the Culture, where we support Black women, small business owners, nonprofit organizations, and really building the teams that they need. What I've been digging into is that there generally is a vision execution gap. It's the thing that we saw when we started to build these businesses, and then it's the thing that we got, the thing that's actually going on. And so there are different things that need to go into that gap, but I am the person that you call when you are ready to think about what is the team that you need to help execute at the level of your vision. And so we help build out those teams. We also have something called When Faith Meets Strategy that does similar work, but the focus is on faith-based urban ministries or ministries and urban communities to really help them think about how to level up in ways that help them serve the community better and be more profitable as well so that they can serve the community better. So thank you for having me on. Uber excited about today's topic. Let's get into it.
Yes, let's get to it. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is the concept of self-advocacy, right? Because one thing I think, especially for Black women, it is so crucial that we are able to advocate for ourselves in professional and even entrepreneurial spaces in a way that doesn't make, how do I say it? They come off as, oh, she's so aggressive. Oh, she's so this, she's so that. So I want to talk a little bit about one, kind of establishing your worth in that corporate or that that professional setting, because that's going to go a long way towards when you're ready to advocate for, I need a raise, I need a promotion, I need to be taken seriously in this space and seen as a thought leader. I think all of those things, that establishing your worth is one of the kind of first things that we have to get into, right? Second being imposter syndrome, that nagging little hater voice. Mine is called Ricky Bobby. Yes, I gave him a name so I can cuss him out whenever he rears his little reject head. But that imposter syndrome of we're never good enough, right? And I know we've all felt that. Times where we walk into a room and we may be the smartest person in that room, but somebody somewhere has caused us to shrink back a little bit and be hesitant of walking in our worth. And advocating for fair compensation. So we already know that just as being women, we're paid less than men. Then you bring that down to being Black women, we're paid less than our non-Black counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
right? So how do we get past and get to the point to where we can advocate for fair, fair pay and things of that nature?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you kind of tell me what are your thoughts and your feelings around self-advocacy, and kind of how do you see Black women navigating that space, or where do we need to go in that space?
Got you. So I'm a visual processor, not verbal. So I was trying to hold on to all the points that you shared. One of the things that I have recently been grappling with that has been helping me and just like feeling like it helped me put a name to an experience that I had for so long that I could not name was creating alignment between my desires and what I believe I deserve. And
Yeah.
so many of us are sitting in spaces where we desire at this level, right? But we really don't feel worthy or we don't feel like we deserve at the level that we desire. And so we're back to that vision execution gap, right? That my vision for my life really is I desire this thing. If I make my vision board, if I close my eyes real tight, if I envision my life, I desire here. But what actually I do, what I execute on, what I ask for, what I require of people is really more in alignment with what I believe I deserve. And so, what is the work that is necessary to close that gap and to not close that gap via lowering our desire level, but to close that gap by raising the level of our perceived level of worthiness and deservingness? And so, what does that look like, right? And so, all of our issues with worthiness and deserving sit in different places for different parts of us. So
Yeah.
for some of us, it's the mental stuff. It's the mental noise. It's the upbringing. It's people telling us we were not, could not, etc. For some of us, it's the external, right? The societal stuff that we have kind of embraced to be true. For some of us, it's weight. For some of us, it's the degree we didn't finish or the thing we didn't do. For some of us, it's a tie to a thing. And so what I've learned, right, is that there's a thinking process that says affirm yourself into worthiness, right? That you can say the affirmations, you can do the things, and you'll feel better, or over time it will. There's another thought of thinking for me that says the things that are connected to my sense of worthiness that I can fit are worth the work, even if they really don't make me more worthy. Meaning, if I feel like I would be more confident if I finished that certification that I never finished. If it would make me feel better to complete it, if it would make me feel better to lose the 10 pounds, if I would know that I would walk out of a room bopping a little different if I was a little less fluffy,
Right.
then it's not about saying I'm just gonna be fluffy anyway and pretend. It's fix the thing that you know is kind of the weight that's keeping you in that gap. That no matter how much you try to talk over it, when you get to that point of decision, you give it permission to make you step back a little bit from what you really desire, right? And then sometimes it's the work of reversing what you have taught yourself is true. So yeah, you can't change what auntie and mama and daddy and the ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, what
Mhm.
those people said that was embedded in you. What you can do is either through therapy or through positive relationships, start to reinforce the idea that I've heard this many times, but I'm now hearing this alternative thing so many more times, right? That it starts to almost water down that perceptional piece. And then sometimes it is, I know this is baggage. I know that this is not true. And so I'm going to force myself to sit in the truth that I know in my head versus the thing that keeps like tugging on my heart and make the decision. So I know that there are moments where you like, in my heart, I feel like I got this imposter voice. I got this thing, but my brain knows I have tackled this thing 4 times. I built this business. I finished that thing. I've never not finished a project. I've never failed. I've never not gotten done what needed to be done. So even though every time I walk into it, my heart starts trying to tell me maybe this is going to be the time it falls apart, my head has to hold on to past performance. That I have a track record with me that says that I get these heart palpitations, my heart try to trick me out, and my mind is capable to get me through everything I need to get through, right? Or the reverse. But sometimes it's our mind playing tricks on us and our heart is pushing us through with the passion and perseverance, right? But it's
Mhm.
identifying what do I know about my past performance to be true, and that past performance really is the truth. This other stuff is the lie, and I have to keep pushing through the lie as loud
That's
as it
right.
may be to get to where I need to be. I think that when we boil it down that way, whether it's the relationship, whether it's the job promotion, whether it's the salary negotiation, whether it's the project that you want to go after and you don't know if they're going to give it
Mhm.
to you, whether it's the client, right? Whether it's the increase in the contract, whatever it is, if we boil it back down to what do I really desire? What do I think I deserve or feel worthy of? And why is there such a disconnect? And really work on bridging that gap.
Wow.
And one of the themes that I heard, and this is so funny because right before the show, Paulette and I were talking about alignment, just the concept of being aligned and moving in concert with that alignment, right? And the theme that I hear and that I see is fear, because we're moving in a space of fear and in a space of lack
Mm-hmm.
instead of realizing that yes, it's going to take a little bit of work to get what I want to get, but sometimes I do have to go and sit in that fear and sit in that trauma and address it head on,
Yeah.
because it's what's, like you said, it's that gap. It's what's stopping us from moving into our destiny and being the highest, best version of ourselves that we can be. And a
Yeah.
lot of times it's all just noise,
How do we
right?
normalize? How do we normalize, right? The idea that these things exist and they are true, right? So fear is a real thing. Fear is
Mhm.
actually a safety mechanism. Us being afraid is something that triggers, right? Like, wait a minute,
Yes.
that level of trepidation. So it is a thing. Fearlessness, like if you actually look up what it is for people who have no fear of anything, that is actually a defect. There's is a psychological
Mhm.
bad that your body doesn't process fear. So I think that what happens is that when we don't partner courage in the ways that we should, so I don't ever aspire to be fearless. I have given up on the idea. I don't, when people
Oh,
say
yeah.
be fearless, I can care less about fearlessness. That is not a thing. What I am intentional about is being courageous, because courage says in the place of fear, in the face of fear, I show up anyway, that the
That's
outcome that I am
right.
seeking, right, drives me more than the fear of what could happen. And the other part, and I think that, when we really start talking about building and developing ourselves, there is a level of like trust in yourself and wherever your faith lies, right?
Mhm.
But there's a self-trust component that absolutely says that I trust me enough to be resilient. Right now, I was looking up so I've gotten into words lately, like what does this word mean versus that one?
Yeah.
Because we use a lot of words in place of a lot of words. And I put up a post the other day that was like, I have come to the place where I don't aspire to be strong. I'm resilient. I'm resilient, not strong. And somebody was like, well, it takes strength. And I was like, I don't need you to edit my post. What I was saying was that strength, when you think of something that's strong, strong means I can endure impact without necessarily being harmed or hit. So if something is strong, I can hit it, I can bang it, it doesn't break, it doesn't crack, nothing happens to it. It just takes the impact and it just stands. It's strong. Resilience says I recover from damage quickly.
Yes.
Mm.
So when we say I'm strong, there's this belief that nothing hurt me, nothing impact, there was no damage, there was no harm, that all these impacts coming my way were just bouncing off me like I'm a bulletproof like that's not true. Resilience says I was damaged
Mhm.
and I was able to recover from the damage. And so what I started realizing in my life was when I kept aspiring to be strong, right? In the moments where I was damaged, I could not process how strength was allowing me to be damaged, because strength says you can't harm me. When I aspire to be resilient, I am clear that things are going to come my way and they're going to catch me a little bit, but I can heal, I can recover. I have the tools, I have the resources, right? I have the awareness to recover quickly, to get back on my feet. And so that process of myself allowed me to say, nothing really, I don't believe, can come my way that I cannot recover from. And different things will have different recovery time. But that level of belief has said, so yep, I'm running a business and we doing real good. And if we have a downturn, I can recover. If this relationship fails, I can recover. If I have learned to believe in my own resilience. I do think that like a lot of times we talk about the strength of especially Black women. I don't know that we're strong. We're not impenetrable, right? But many of us have learned to tap into our resilience. Now, here's the
Mhm.
thing: the power with resilience is you have to know when you are damaged and healing. So
Yes.
the point that I need to recover I got to squirrel away and recover.
Mhm.
I may come out faster, but I
Yeah.
have to acknowledge that damage was done and I need a minute, right?
Mhm.
Maybe I even have to self heal. Some of us are self healing a lot of times, but I need to know what it is to be able to pull myself back, acknowledge that damage was done, and move. When we keep moving through the damage in the name of strength, we actually don't ever get to heal.
Right. Yes.
Put these hard to it goes to the we mean,
Yes.
we angry, we're not. We're moving in strength and never taking time to acknowledge the damage. So every time you touch me, but the damages are still tender, I'm still moving. But yes, I'm snapping at you. Yes, I'm a little
Mhm.
snarky. Yes, I'm a little pissy, right? Because all these spots are still very tender and I'm still moving forward. Giving ourselves permission to go in the back and let the tender spot heal. I'm gonna be back, but I need a minute for this. We
Right.
have to give ourselves that permission.
But let me say this about even strong things.
Mm-hmm.
You repeatedly hit a strong thing, it will break. So I think when people think of, oh, you're strong, nothing ever damages you, strong things break. Look at these bridges that
Mm-hmm.
are made of concrete. Oh, that, what is it, 85 here in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
collapsed,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right? Everything strong has a breaking point.
Here's what happened.
And we
It
have to
breaks
and we have
because
to
it got to
realize
a
that.
weak point and nobody acknowledged the weakness. The strong thing didn't
Yes.
break. The repeated harm created a weak point.
Absolutely.
Right,
And
but I'm
nobody
saying the
acknowledged
thing that is supposed to be
it. Mm-hmm.
strong and impenetrable, there can always be a weak point,
Yeah. You can
right?
get
And I
weak point.
think we have to know that it's okay to be hurt and to show that you are hurt and to express that I need a minute. I need to step back and I need to heal me. Because sometimes we're so used to, if I just do this, that pain, that hurt, maybe it'll go away. I'm just going to pour myself into work. I'm just going to pour myself into helping and fixing other people so I don't have to focus and fix me.
Because we're not
Right.
acknowledging the weak. Yeah. We're not
Right. And
acknowledging.
how do we get past that? Right. And in a space of a work environment,
Mm-hmm.
because this month is professional wellness
Yep.
month. And I
Yep.
want to make sure that we're giving people, when I'm at work and these things are hurting or harming me, how do I advocate for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And my friend over here just has a question. How do we avoid those false qualification gaps that some companies use to block your career progression that you know your peers didn't go through? Right.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna say is you don't create a version of yourself at work that you don't have in your life.
Come on. Say that.
So I know that we want to say what happens in the workplace. What happens in the workplace is the same thing that happens in all other places in your life. It's just happening at work.
Oh yeah,
And it's
definitely.
happening in the place where
Absolutely.
you probably feel the least empowered. So it's happening at a higher rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one, Kwame, I don't mean to break it to you. You're not gonna avoid people being racist at work. You're not gonna avoid microaggressions. You're not gonna avoid um false comparatives. You're not really gonna avoid that. What we can do is create accountability points and also being clear that that comes at risk, right? So the I question absolutely could be, hey, historically an MBA was not necessary for this role. Can I get a better understanding of how those qualifications have now changed in
Mm.
that now being a necessary thing? But you got to understand that in challenging and asking that question, it comes with potential backlash. Like there is no way to avoid people up leveling, moving things around, making certain
Absolutely.
considerations.
Yep.
It is one of the reasons, to be absolutely honest, that I do not heavily advocate for the idea that the fix is creating anti-racist work environments. Because I do not know or believe that I will see anti-racist society in my lifetime. What I do believe is having more individuals with representation in certain areas so that everybody's getting the benefit of the bias, right? So that there is yes, there's a bias that will exist, and that people of different representations have somebody that looks like them, giving them the benefit of that bias. But what I will say is that we have to make decisions on when we will or will not be silent, or when we will or will not ask the questions that will at least hold people to the accountability of having to explain or create a rationale. So I don't know where you work, and I don't want to tell you anything that's going to cause you down the wrong path. But is there HR? Is there somewhere you can go and say, hey, I have noticed historically that this role did not have this requirement. I am now going for this role, and this requirement seems to have recently been presented. So without saying it's because I'm Black or any of those other things,
Mm-hmm.
and I get a better understanding of why the requirements have changed, and then what needs to happen to make sure that if I go pursue this new credential, the requirements won't keep changing in a way that don't allow me to actually be a viable candidate for this role. There's a conversation you can have, but a lot of that really depends on your organization, et cetera. The other thing is, and it's really a struggle, is that sometimes we have to identify that we are fighting an uphill battle because this organization is framed this way. It is in the culture of the organization.
Yes.
And so is it time for me to remarket and reposition myself to an organization that has a different approach? Because they are organizations that don't operate in those cultures,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I do think it is understanding when is the difference between saying I'm a fight for this thing in this organization, because oftentimes when you fight to get it, now you in it, but you still in it in an organization that didn't want to give it to you. And so now you're navigating it in this thing that felt like a win
Mm-hmm.
for 5 days.
Come on.
And on day number 6, you like, the hell? Like what is
Right. Right.
so
Right.
I think sometimes we get to decide that I am not here to so we are not necessarily required to always be revolutionaries. It's not my job always to change the construct or to change the norm of a situation. Black people are not required to always be activists. Sometimes you get to go where there is comfort. Sometimes you get to go where people acknowledge your value at the door and are willing to navigate you through. We do not always have to carry activism and revolutions on our backs every single day. You absolutely get to opt out. So I think that's a decision, Kwame, that you make to say, do I want to fight for this role? What is the fight? What is the win on this battle if I fight it? Or is this
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity for me to understand that this organization is not actually vested in my success and growth? And is there an organization that is, and how do I place myself there?
And one of the things I like about what you did and how you frame that is you use the concept of assertive communication,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not aggressive communication. I want to be clear, assertive communication is not aggressive. It is being able to articulate in a professional way that does not bring that other person feeling like, whoa, she's attacking me, whoa, whatever, right? That says, this is what I don't understand. This is what I need. Can you help me understand? Blah, 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 blah. Right? Without saying, you're not giving me this because you're this and you're that, and bring a combative relationship into play. And I do agree that sometimes we have to realize that maybe the company, the department, the manager, that's a culture that is not in alignment with my values, my beliefs, and my desires. And it might be that you say, this is not the place for me. And I need to go and find another place. And I think that's why when you're looking for a career place, some place that you can dock yourself, you have to do that research and understand what their true corporate culture is, not just what's on the brochures and the pictures on the website, right? But what is the corporate culture there? Is there room for people like me to move up? But we also have to take a good look at ourselves, because the one thing we never want to talk about is sometimes we do need to make some changes in our key player and our star player.
Yes.
And sometimes there is truth in what someone is saying to us. It's not always about, I have to fight and I'm not good. Maybe you do need to grow in this area. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I think that's part of the being able to ask for, again, not aggressively, right?
Mm-hmm.
But being able to say, hey, I noticed this changed, right? I'm really interested in my growth here. Can you provide me with feedback? If people can give you substantive feedback, like objective, real, tangible feedback versus like fluffery, then you like, okay, there was a rationale. I think it's sometimes easy to say they just wanted to move the bar for me, right? So I think there is a level of inquisitiveness, but you can't go in there with the predetermined mind that they are just trying to keep you down, asking the question, because you're going to ask the question from an accusatory space, right? So it's going in and saying, like, be very clear. I want to grow in this organization. I absolutely see opportunities for growth. However, I realize that I am not being selected for some of the growth opportunities that I think I'm aligned with. Can you show me, can you talk to me about where the disconnects are so that I can be prepared for the next opportunity? Right. And you're asking with the positive assumption that I believe that everybody means me well until you prove that you do not. Right. So I'm going in with the positive assumption that yes, there is something, with the plausible belief that there could be something on my side. Right.
Yeah.
And that being the case, what I then can do is that if they give me nothing, if they right, then I can say, okay, right. So now we're at a point of there's nothing tangible. So, like, yep, the things that you've mentioned, I fully can understand. Can you give me some concrete examples? Can we set up weekly check-ins where we can kind of check in on the things that you think may be deficient so I can work towards? Like, sometimes it's also making them do the work of managing it and of really being a part of your professional development. But if you also get to the point where you know that this is like flimflammery, like this ain't a thing, then I think that you do get to say, how do I want to proceed with this? And I think you have to proceed knowing that no risk, no reward. That you absolutely can walk into a conversation and they be like, oh, here come another one stirring up. It could get worse before it get. All those things could happen, but there's absolutely no reward without risk. And how invested are you in your professional growth and development? I would actually rather know that an organization does not care about my growth and be able to make a decision based on that information than to never have the conversation and just keep waiting for somebody to offer me something.
So I got a quick question.
Yeah.
And you said something that's pretty pertinent, especially when we're talking about being in the workplace and being accountable, because that's what I'm hearing you say, right? Instead of constantly putting it on the employer or on HR or your supervisor or your manager that the man trying to hold me down, could it really be you? However, you said something really pertinent towards the end, and I'm going to pose this question. Are associates supposed to, number one, and we know this to be so, are associates supposed to be accountable for making sure that their career moves forward? And when do we have that conversation? Should we be the one to initiate the conversation? Right? Because I think a lot of times what happens is like you said earlier, Joy, you were saying, we get to work and it's just, it's exacerbated to the nth degree. And we're sitting here, we're going, okay, well, I can't say that at work. Well, why can't you say that at work? That's what you would say when you were at home. So where do you see the disconnect in how we, especially as Black folk, when we get to work, all of a sudden we kind of cower down, but then when we out here, we doing our thing, we live in our lives, XYZ, it's okay for us to speak up for ourselves, and except for when we're in the workplace. Because I saw Kwame's question, and I think that he absolutely should ask those questions within reason. Mm-hmm. So how do we, and why don't we?
So I'm gonna be very clear. If your career progression is not your top priority, it's nobody else's.
Oops.
I don't care how good of a manager you have.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I manage people.
Yes.
But I'm trying to keep my business running. So if you are not the type of person that is initiating some of those conversations, very easily a year could go by and I'm not thinking about your promotion. It's not intentional. It's not because I don't care. It is because we are in this momentum. We moving as we moving. Things are getting done, and I don't know that you're unhappy. I don't know that you want to do something else. We haven't said that. So if you are not, if your career goals and progression are not your number one priority, they're never going to be my number one priority.
There you go.
They may be number 5. If you're willing to be number 5 on my list, that's that, right? You're also leaving your growth and your life growth to the benevolence of someone else.
Absolutely.
The kindness of strangers, which really is not part of it. So I am not saying that you walking on day one, like, when is my next, when is next? I'm not saying that.
Right.
Are you having meetings with your supervisor?
Yeah.
What do you think your reviews look like? Are you just a receiver of feedback? Are you walking into conversations? Are you creating a spot on the agenda? I know a lot of people have check-ins with their boss and there's no agenda. Well, if their boss don't write one, why you don't write one? That is when something doesn't exist, that is open room for your creativity. So if I'm meeting with my boss and my boss never has an agenda, that's open room
for you to
that is
do.
a clean slate for me to create an agenda and say, hey, I noticed, right, coming into our meetings that we didn't really have anything that was really helped to keep us structured. I know you're uber busy. I put together this agenda. Here's some of the things that I know are top level for you. Here's some things that are top level for me. Here's the parking lot. And if you don't mind, I'll just keep this as a running update, right?
Love
Because
that.
what also happens is it's the tyranny of the urgent. What is urgent is what's top of my mind, right? I was saying to somebody the other day, 9 times out of 10 in the work that I do, am I working on the things that are purely of high value and importance to me on a personal level. I am 99% of the time working on the things that are on fire. And so sometimes the things that are on fire are not even really important to me, but they're on fire. And I keep the fire keep burning. So the things that I really have a heart to do, the phone call I want to make, the email that I want to sit down and draft, the appreciation notice that I want to send to my team, the flower basket that I want to, all that stuff gets thrown out the window because I got a client emailing me on Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, and something else because their employee said something rude to them. And it's not urgent, but it's on fire, right?
Yeah, I got you.
I think that we have to be able to reset and prioritize for our leaders. You managing up is something that they don't teach, but they need to teach everywhere because we spend most of our careers managing up. The other piece is that people don't teach us is that when you cannot lead through authority, you have to learn how to lead through influence. I will absolutely say this. Black women specifically, Kwame, I am not leaving you out of this, but I'm going to talk on the space of Black women. I'll get into this. Black women specifically are normally not in seats of power, right, in the traditional ways, because we don't have the power of gender or race. So even when we are in seats of positional authority, there are people that are below us that have more influential authority over decisions because people value their representation more than they value ours. What they say holds weight in the room. So I can be a Black woman managing a white man, and that white man's opinion will matter more than mine, despite the fact that I am the director and he is the manager. So when we sometimes are trying to lead from authoritative places, we absolutely don't get where we're trying to go. Influence says, I am clear about what it is that where you want to get to, right? So we don't have positional or authority. Influence comes in and says, I know where you're trying to go. So I'm going to speak to the things that matter to you. So if I know that my boss has a boss who is on their back about maintaining cost containment or growing certain parts of the business or et cetera, then my conversation with my boss is not about my raise. My conversation with my boss is about the additional duties that I'm able and capable to take on that's going to help them reach that goal. And oh, by the way, is there a differential for that? But I'm not just coming and asking you to give me more money because you should give me more money. Sometimes are circumventing, right? Or we're trying to go directly to something that we need to go around. Anybody watch sports? The best way to the basket is straight down the lane. But who's letting you just run middle of the lane? Right. Like, what good defensive team is letting you just go straight down the middle of the lane and do a layup? It won't. So you have to learn how to dribble, double back, move to the side. I'm not that big of a sports fan, but I'm pretending I'm not. So you can
doing it, right?
Right. Yeah. Make sure that you can get why, because the basket is still the basket. I still need these points. So what is the way that you need to get through to where you need to get through? So is it, I'm going to take visibility on this project? Is it, I know my boss really cares about the financial aspect. How do I create the business argument for this thing? Like there's some work. But just going to my boss, I've been here 3 years, and I think I should get a promotion. You don't get credit for time service.
No. Okay, now with that, hold on one second. We got to pause for the cause.
My bad.
Go, girl. Pause for the cause. No. We're gonna get right back into it after this brief message.
Y'all ready for the hottest event of the summer? Brownstone Worldwide and Exhale Central Georgia are throwing the block party of the year on August 4th, 2024. From 7 to 11 p.m. at the Mill at Dovedown, located at 315 West Solomon Street in Griffin, Georgia, Suite 400, we're going to be throwing the Gala Event Fundraiser of the Year to actually help 2 promising young women blaze their trail to college. So go ahead and join us for fantastic food, drinks, networking opportunities, music, fashion shows, and local vendors. Tickets are only $30 a person, y'all. We're also accepting donations and seeking sponsors to back this noble cause. So jump on board, click the link below, or dial 470-862-0313 for more details. Go ahead over to brownstoneworldwide.com or give us a call. Let's go ahead and make college dreams a reality together at Brownstone Worldwide and Exhale Central Georgia.
All right. And you are watching and or listening to Wake Up Happy Sis show on KCCR the Brownstone and the Brownstone Podcasting Network, where we are changing the narrative for our people because we're always going to tell our stories our way. With a little flavor, a little color. It's going, going to be a y'all in there somewhere. That's what we do here. That's what we do here. So one of the things I want to go back to, Joy, that you were talking about is the concept of managing up. There's also some, how do I say it? If you are a good manager, you too should also be concerned with the growth and progression of your people, but never let your career be in their hands, in their timeline, right? Just like Joy was saying, there's always opportunities for you to show that you are ready, right? And I've talked about this on previous episodes. When I worked for a major Fortune 500 telecom company, and I was the one who wrote all the documents in the department. It was a new department that they started and brought us in. I wrote all the policies and procedures. I wrote all the training plans and trained the people. But when it was time for them to choose a lead, they didn't choose me. But what I didn't do is go in and you're racist and you're this and you're that. I had to take an honest look at LeAnne and see why could I possibly have not been chosen for that? And then when the next position came up, because they brought somebody in from outside. That happens. Mm-hmm. Next time, trust and believe LeAnne was on that list.
Yeah.
Right. Because I didn't go into accusatory, why didn't this, why didn't that? Mm-hmm. I stepped up even more.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes we have to step up more than others, but it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. You have to show. And when you're ready to have those difficult conversations, right? Mm-hmm. And advocating for yourself. First thing, I want you to gather your data. Okay. Like Dr. Michelle is always telling us that what? The numbers don't lie. When you come with your facts and your data, that's really hard to refute, right? When you make sure you're choosing the right timing, the right environment, don't do it in the middle. You know, they got budget cuts going on, or you're hearing the writing on the wall. That is not the time to come in and try and say, well, I think you should be giving me blah, blah, blah. Now, sometimes you can navigate those waters because with less people, that means we're doing more with less. Mm-hmm. So now if I have to take on these duties, like Joy said, you can ask, is there a pay differential for that? Mm-hmm. Right? Because I'm now doing the work of 2-3 people, right? But then you also have to practice active listening and back to that assertive communication. Understand what your boss is saying and sometimes not saying to you. You have to know, if you don't know your organization, your boss's boss and his boss and any boss up there, and you're not looking at what are all the corporate communications, what's going on in the news about my company, right? You have to arm yourself with all of the knowledge, and you can, please don't come in with that time served. I've been here 4-5 years and I don't have one.
Yes.
That doesn't mean anything. But you've been doing the same mediocre job for all 4 of those years. You've never stepped up. You've never asserted yourself and shown that you can give more to this organization and what you can truly bring. Yeah. But you want a different level of compensation. There's a give and take that goes with it.
It's the visibility component. I mean, I talk about this from a weird place because I'm an old millennial, so I'm a millennial at the top of the millennial chain. So I had a cell phone, but I remember life before one. Like I'm at
Right.
Right there.
and so when I remember like through my career progression, every role that I got as a promotion, I had stepped into components of that role voluntarily before they made me the offer. So when I started in HR, like people are like, oh, even HR, I started in HR as a receptionist. And I started as a receptionist. And no, actually, I started as a secretary to the director. But I did receptionist duties as all part of the work. I realized that there was an assistant director. She did a lot of like benefits and like 401k and all that other stuff. So I decided like, let me go see. I finished my work because I would get my work done for the director because it was budgets and expense reports and things like that. And then I would be like, hey, do you need help? She didn't have an assistant. Hey, do you need help with anything? And it started with like stuff. Let me see if you can stuff these envelopes. She was very meticulous. So if you made a mistake, she would not want your help no more. So it started with, can you stuff these envelopes correctly? I could have been offended. What do you mean stuffed envelopes? I got a degree. Maybe I stuffed them envelopes, made sure that the stuff was right. You need a ride to your meeting. Can I take you? What was happening was though, as I was doing those things, she was teaching me stuff. Like I was learning about the benefits. I was reading the stuff. I was engaging, learning the employees, learning information. Then I would take her to the benefits meeting. Now I'm meeting the providers. I was still making my same assistant to the director money. Right. And as we moved, it got to the point where she decided she was leaving. It was maybe about a 5 month span that we started interacting. She said she was leaving. And the person that she recommended was me. Because I had been sitting in that space. I ended up working in employee benefits for about 6 years, right? In that space. And when I left my director, he let me go, but I trained my replacement. And I finally had to go to him. So what happened was, and I'll tell you the story, this is how some of the advocacy works. I went to him and said, hey, I've been told I'm taking this new title. I'm supposed to be training. I'm also training my replacement, right? And they had selected a person that I did not think they should select, but they selected her anyway. And she was very difficult to train. She was not getting the work. It was like a whole. And so my promotion into my new salary was hinging on the completion of my training into this new role. So the new person that was training me was like, she don't have all the stuff yet. And so I finally went in the room and we got to 90 days and they were like, well, we don't feel like you're ready. And I said, well, here's the thing. I have now trained 3 admins that y'all have selected that I told y'all were not right fits for the role. And so that 90 days that I spent training 3 people while trying to learn a new job is the issue. So here's the thing. I would like to step fully into my new role and relinquish all training duties because it's seemingly my assisting in trying to train this new person is a detriment to me learning and fully completing my new role. I'm not going to keep working 2 jobs on the old job salary. But when I presented that, but I did the work first. And I was confident in my job. So it's not like she can't do this. What ended up happening? The next person that they brought in to train, I picked. And they increased my money in that conversation. They moved my money up and said, okay. But if I would have said, oh, okay, I'll come back in 90 days. Was anybody going to feel bad about my money?
No, absolutely.
When I change jobs again, I'm telling you this, like some of this stuff is, I know that we have this microwave, pay me and then I'll do it. It doesn't really necessarily work that way in real life. When I moved into HR manager, I came into a job as a benefits person. I remember this number. I was making $40,000 a year. I came into doing benefits management. They were like, I'm doing the work, I'm running metrics, and my director at the time was taking credit for my work. So when they went to explain the work, she could not explain it. So then the CEO was like, well, who's doing this? So he calls an HR meeting because he want to know who can explain these charts. And I'm like, somewhere in that they were like, they decided they were going to demote her. It was a long thing, but they made me interim HR manager and my salary stayed at $40,000. At that time, you didn't have to make what you have to make now to be exempt. So they made me an exempt employee with no overtime at $40,000 a year. Woo. I was making the same amount of money as a front desk person, but she was exempt, non-exempt, and getting overtime hours.
Her overtime.
I was working late, and I was the least paid person in the department. I worked on that role. I think it was about 6 months at that salary, right? Because that was the interim line. And we were doing salary reviews. And well, here's what I decided. I decided that I was at 40. I knew what they were paying the last HR manager because I knew the numbers. What I realized was if I argued for that money, right away, they were going to give me an additional 20, right? Because it was more than I was making, but I knew it wasn't what that role was valued at. I had never been in that role before. There was a risk on their side too to give me the job. So I worked. I worked for 6 months at $40,000 a year as an exempt employee, making less than the front desk person technically at the end of the day, because she was getting paid for extra hours. But when I went for that conversation about my salary, I basically said, industry for this job is 80 to 85. The CEO said, meet me at 82.5. I went from 40,000 to 82.5. It did that 6 months. I didn't lose anything.
Right.
Right. Because I more than doubled my numbers in that 6 month span. And my salary never went down from there. A year later, I got bumped another 10K. Like I continued to move up. But what if I decided I'm not doing that? They asking me, you got to pay me right now. They probably would have gave me 15,000 more. I would have been pseudo happy about it. I would have felt like I got a 15K bump off the gate. But because I proved that I could do the job, they had nothing to hang their hat on. Now, you take that as you will. Some people like, I ain't doing that. Don't do it. But I pretty much was at six figures in my career in my late 20s, early 30s because of those strategies. Because I did not wait. I did not always say, you're going to pay me before I'm going to do it. I went in and showed value. Now you have something to decide about. You have a decision to make. And now you got skin in the game because I've been doing this for 6 months. You're going to go find somebody else doing it well. You're going to go find somebody else?
That makes
and lose time because that person has to be trained. So now you're going backwards, and they may not be as good as me. You see what I can do.
You differently because I've done this role. I have the skills, knowledge, information. So I think I know what we talk about right now. It's like, run me my bag. I get it, but I think that run me my bag conversation has to align with I brought the value. I brought the value, so run me my bag.
There you
not
go.
Run me my bag and then I'll be valuable. That's not really how that works.
Yeah.
And often I think what employees don't understand is I'm not going to pay you for a job and then pay to train you to do the job that I'm paying you to do. So if I got to pay you in all this training and education, then that's where the money's going to go. But I'm not going to pay you $100,000 a year for $60,000 a year work and then pay another in training to get you to no one's doing that. And that's why many people are getting overlooked because they're looking at somebody else is already coming in with these credentials. And even in moments where racism does exist, because I know it does. I'm not telling you it doesn't. Sexism, all those things exist. If you're not even coming in with the argument that calls out their bias, they get to overlook you because you've made it easy. If I'm showing you all this stuff, at some point they just have to be explicitly racist.
Yeah. And I think you have to understand it's also about playing the long game too.
Yes.
Right? You're strategizing for your career. Stop looking at it like it's a job because those two are not the same. Right? And I think that's a great segue into a conversation kind of about negotiating with confidence. Right? Because you do have to understand some kind of negotiation dynamics. Right? And you have to come prepared. We all know, just like she said, racism, sexism, all those things exist. They're prevalent. But when you come with facts, you cannot dispute facts. So either you're going to tell me to my face, it's because I'm Black or because I'm a woman or because I'm a Black woman, or you're going to run me what I deserve. And I've shown you I'm deserving of. Right. So before we go, let me do our we got one more. We're gonna talk about the cruise now. So if you guys ain't just go on, take a listen.
Ready to swap your daily grind for some ocean waves and sunshine? Then join Brownstone Worldwide for the ultimate neighbors retreat aboard Celebrity Cruises. From July 21st through the 27th of 2024, get ready to make waves and unforgettable memories. Our all-inclusive package features plush rooms, drinks on us, complimentary Wi-Fi, and yes, even tips are taken care of. Bask in live entertainment, exciting contests, and be a part of the live tapings of Brownstone podcast shows. Venture beyond the ship with shore excursions to the stunning Key West, Bimini, Bahamas, and Georgetown, Grand Cayman. But here's the catch. These rooms are selling out like hotcakes right now. So don't miss the chance to rub elbows with your favorite Brownstone Air personalities and meet your neighbors in an unforgettable setting. So what are you waiting for? Secure your spot on this epic journey today.
I'm
Yes.
excited. I'm ready to go
Um,
I have some commercial breaks, okay? I am here for these commercial
this is what we do. We a real show over here. We all professional and shit. You see
I
us.
love it. You said professional and shit.
Yes, he did.
Yes, I could be professional and still cuss.
I'm here for it. I am here for it, okay?
If Della Reese could be a whole pastor and she would drop cuss words, I could cuss and still be professional.
There's no judgment on this side.
Now, Joy, you've given us all this good knowledge, right? So I'm going up for my promotion. I am trying to negotiate and advocate for me. I've been doing the work. I've shown value. Now, do you have any other tips for how can I go in and negotiate and advocate for myself? What's those little last things that maybe can help them slide on in?
Know your numbers. Know what industry puts for your role. And if you can find out, know where your organization is in their paying. So I'll say this. Organizations, there's something was called you either lead, lag, or you just ride the market. And what that means is there is normally a median. There's a 50th percentile that most roles fall in your industry, in your state, right? And so you kind of almost want to know if you can figure out, right? Does your organization lead in that it kind of pays on the higher end more towards 100% of that percentile? Does it lag with it intentionally pays less than the median, or does it pay along that median? So you know, because sometimes we Google jobs and we like, they pay $200 million for this. Well, your organization does not pay in that, right? So you want to know where your organization is in their comp philosophy. Ask, do we have a compensation philosophy? So ask for some of these things because normally they exist, just nobody ever asks for them, right? And HR people will get excited or not, you don't know if you ask for them, but like the stuff exists, right? So you want to know what is the compensation philosophy? Where are we in the market? That's number one. Number two, compare apples to apples. So make sure that when you are comparing and knowing your numbers, that you are comparing job descriptions that don't just have the same title, but have the same responsibilities. Read the description. Look at yours. Are they asking for, because you can go in there like, oh, this is a 6-figure job. They're like, yeah, but they also want you to have these proficiencies, these certifications. You don't got none of that. You just got the same title. So you want to look at and make sure it's comparative and you go in leading the numbers. Secondly, you're going in with market research, not I feel like I should make more money. Not I saw so-and-so's paycheck and they make more. That's not what we're going in with. We're going in with, hey, in part of this conversation, I was doing some research around industry for my title, based on my experience, based on our industry. This is what the market is paying, right? What is the probability, or like where are we, right, organizationally as it relates to being able to pay close to market, right? So it's a not when you're gonna run me my check, but like where we at, right? Because I noticed that I'm a little south of this number. And or if this is something that needs to be staggered out in time, can as part of my performance review, we discuss a plan that allows me to catch up to the market over the next 2 years of my tenure. You're having conversations that make room even for the idea that organizations always just can't bump everybody up to the median, right? The other thing is what happens with roles that I want you to know, because some of the stuff we personalize, is that normally when you come in, that role was reslated when you joined the organization at whatever the new salary was. Once you're in it, you in it. So if you're not moving the conversation along, or if the organization doesn't have raises or certain things that automatically happen where they get stay current to market, all that stuff, your job can become stagnant at the last place it was assessed, which may be why new people come in and they're higher up because their job was more recently assessed and yours was assessed 3 years ago when you joined the organization. So you want to find out those things. And when you're interviewing, you should be asking. We sit on interviews and we don't ask, how frequently do you go review salaries? What are the constructs for? So we go on interviews and we like, do y'all got medical benefits? What are the vacation days? That's great. When do y'all reassess salary reviews? What is my opportunity for growth and development? Like, I care about them 10 vacation days, but I also want this 10K added to my salary over the next week. Like, those things all have to matter. So we have to have those conversations in the beginning too. And then when you go in there with substance. If you can't quantify what you did, then you probably do not deserve a raise. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you can't quantify how the work that you did over the last 12 months moved the needle forward organizationally or met a departmental goal or increased productivity, then you're really asking for something that you really can't prove that you worth or you deserve. And this whole idea of I am worth it, I deserve it, that stuff is great internally. You have to create a business argument externally for other people. So those are things. The other thing is be willing to walk away. I have people always say, you can't negotiate from a table you're not willing to walk away from. So be clear in your mind. If you have made decisions that this is where you want your career to be, and you have told them this is the market, and you have proved the thing, and they're not willing to do it, you need to be okay with being willing to opt out, being willing to find somebody who is paying market where you can walk into those roles, because ideally it's about your growth and trajectory. And the worst thing you can do is to take the new salary and then they negotiate you higher and you stay, because you're going to have to go back to it from the beginning. Anybody that can't value you before somebody else does didn't value you from the beginning.
There you go. Come on, preach that. Good stuff. Good
yes,
stuff.
This has been awesome.
Well, she has preached on today.
Girl, look, Joy came with the hot piping tea up in here for y'all today. But unfortunately, we are out of time. It is the end of our hour. It has gone too fast. But maybe Joy would grace us and come back to the show, and come and hang out with us again. But Joy, why don't you tell the people how they can get in contact with you, and if you have anything fabulous and fascinating that they need to sign up for?
Yep. So most of the stuff that we do are for employers, because we're trying to get these employers better, so y'all ain't got to go through this drama, right? So most of the stuff that we do is for employers. For individuals who just want to connect, I have been thinking about creating things that are employee-centered, things that are helping HR professionals show up better in the space. So it's not off the table, right? But if you just want to connect, if you have a question, if it's something I can answer that is quick, we're not doing full consults and DMs. I am findable on most platforms at the Joy You Need. For those in the New York area, in the faith community, I do have an event coming up on July 29th called When Faith Meets Strategy. It is free. But it's for people who are thinking about how to create recession-proof strategies for churches and ministries. It is free to attend. So registration will drop in the next week or so. If you're following me on any socials, you'll see it there. But it's just to follow and keep engaged, see as we grow and evolve, comment on posts. Those things are really the support that I would be looking for right now. And if I can provide you any help, just hit me up and I'll let you know what I can do.
I love
it. Paulette.
Yes.
Why don't you go on, take us out. Where can they get all this great information about Brownstone Worldwide and the Brownstone Podcast Network?
Well, let's talk about it really quick. First of all, Joy, amazing. Like I'm sitting here and I'm like, I ain't got nothing to say because she done said it. She done
said it all, babe.
Wait a minute, she took us to church. Listen, she made me pull out the first lady.
I almost had to pull mine out a couple times, but I was like,
listen, I was ready. And girl, I got plenty of fans. Listen, I was ready to clap and let it pop. Listen, for real, like straight up, like Joy, thank you so much. This was excellent, amazing information. So where can you find me? So first of all, you can find me on all things Brownstone Worldwide. The Brownstone Podcast Network. You can go ahead and download the KCCR app, or you can listen in at kccrthebrownstone.com. We are officially migrating over to All Talk, except for DJ Tony Sanchez and the Sunday Brunch, which is going to give you jazz and gospel on Sundays. So that's going to be amazing. We're keeping that show. Don't forget, we got some new folks that are coming into the fold. We have The Real on Parenting that is starting in the new season in July. We also have Coach Jackie Vasquez with Wealth Access. Wealth Asset and she got the WAP. That's the name of her show, right? And so she is a wellness, money wellness coach. And so we're really super excited to have her into the fold. So big shout out to her. And all of the folks that are coming into the fold for the new season. We are excited to have you guys. One other thing that is happening next week, we have our Lunch and Learn series that is officially returning because we're going to be out of the office. So We have Ramon Ray that is on Monday for Juneteenth. We're celebrating Juneteenth on Monday as well. Guess what drops on Sunday for Juneteenth? Brownstone Living Magazine. So you'll get an opportunity to find out more about Ramon Ray and all of our other people in the neighborhood, including, you guessed it, Casey Brown is coming to the Brownstone next week. And we also have our Lunch and Learn series with our new air personalities as well. So all next week, you'll get some new and pre-recorded shows. We're really excited about that. Go ahead and check us out at brownstoneworldwide.com and Brownstone Living Magazine, as well as KCCR The Brownstone. And y'all, don't forget these events. They are off the chain.
They are. So, and for me, everywhere, Dolce and Lay and Wake Up Happy Sis. If you look for me, I ain't hard to find. You're going to see this beautiful bald head somewhere on these internet streets, because that's how I rock. So make sure that you stay tuned, because I'll still be live Monday. I will be live Monday.
Praise the Lord.
So, I ain't with all that taking days off thing, but because I'm trying to serve y'all. So make sure that you stay tuned. You keep it locked to us, because we got so many great things coming up for you. And with that, peace, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Wake Up Happy Sis on KCCR The Brownstone. Make sure you show up every Monday at 10 a.m. for a new show.